I don't know if you've ever noticed, but sometimes our emotions, it seems like they have a mind of their own. We're just going about doing our thing and then something happens that knocks us off balance, and then all of a sudden we feel bad, we're being triggered, and we can end up being stuck in that place for a portion of time. Or we just wake up in the morning and for whatever reason we just feel like crap and we've no idea why. Definitely sometimes it feels like someone else is driving our bus. Now the thing is, this is actually perfectly natural because a lot of the emotional creation process happens subconsciously. However, just because it works like that doesn't mean that you don't have influence over those processes. So in this video lesson of this free YouTube course on how to manage your emotions using NLP, I want to take you through a really cool technique, a process you can use to deliberately influence your emotions for the better. And once you practice this and really get good at it, honestly, it can become such an absolute game changer. Hi, I'm Stephen Burns from Mind School, and in this video we're going to be continuing this free video course for YouTube on how to manage your emotions using NLP. Now these are of course standalone videos that you can enjoy on their own, but in order for you to get the most out of this series, I strongly urge you watch all of the videos in the course. So I'll be including links to these videos as they get added in the descriptions below. But today I want to take you through a really powerful technique you can use to deliberately influence your emotions, your feelings for the better. And in particular, I want to show you how you can create a feeling of inner strength, a sense of being centered, balanced, and grounded. And this is a really important emotion to cultivate because when we get knocked off balance, when we feel bad emotionally, then we usually lose our center. We feel less grounded, we feel fragile, we feel vulnerable, both emotionally but also physically. So this can be a really wonderful mental state to counteract that. So you can use this, you can return to this whenever you need it, whenever you're knocked off balance emotionally, and it can really give you a strong foundation, a strong basis to live a really good and positive life. So let's take a look at this. So this is based on a model called the state loop. Now you don't have to know the theory of the state loop to get this to work. However, if you do want to understand that theory, then I'd recommend you check out the previous video in this series. Again, you'll find links to this in the description below. So this technique involves three main steps. And step one is where you start off by making use of your physiology. A lot of the time when we find ourselves emotionally off balance or out of kilter, then it can be very difficult to try and talk ourselves out of that emotion. When we intellectualize our problems and our bad feelings, it can usually end up just making the whole thing worse. We end up having some kind of weird, bizarre argument with ourselves about why we feel bad and why we should feel good and this and that, and it ends up just adding extra layers to the problem. So a better place to start is with your physiology. So what you want to do with this in this step is you want to take the focus of your attention and focus it onto the center of your gravity and start to breathe from that place. Now this has been taken from martial arts, and it's a thing I believe called the hara. I actually used to do martial arts years ago and did karate, and at the time I wanted to do all the kicking and the punching and the fancy stuff, but they basically just got us in the first few lessons to stand there and breathe. It felt very, very dull, especially for a kid that was only like 13 years old. But then what they did was at the end of every lesson, which was super cool, was one of the instructors stood and he breathed from his hara, from his centre of gravity. And then the other instructor would run up with a broom handle and then basically break the broom handle across the instructor's abs. Now this was crazy, I don't know if they do this these days. And he would do this after every single lesson. This poor guy had to have a broom handle smashed across his abs every single lesson. But it just showed the power of physical strength and also your focus mentally. That when you really focus your attention on the center of your gravity and breathe from that place, you become physically stronger and you also become emotionally so much more stronger in your psychology. So how do you actually do this? Well, basically your hara, or your center of gravity, is 3 finger widths below your navel, below your belly button. So what you want to do is, and you can do this along with me just now if you like, is you want to just stand hip width apart. So don't spread your legs. Everybody suddenly thinks they have really, really wide hips. You want to stand proper hip width apart. And you want to take the focus of your attention down from your head, down into 3 finger widths below your navel, below your belly button. And you want to just simply focus your attention there and start to breathe from that place. Now don't force it. You want to allow your stomach to expand from that place 3 finger widths below your navel. Then what you want to do is you want to even just kind of like imagine that there's a ball of light down there. That can really help you just imagine and really place your attention and focus on that space. So you can imagine this ball of light shining from that spot, your centre of gravity. And some people even like to add a sound. They can kind of add like a kind of hum or a vibration that's going on from that place. So you want to just spend a few moments just doing this. So if you need to pause this lesson, you can do so just now and really focus your attention on breathing from that place, from your hara, from your centre of gravity. And what you'll find is you'll start to feel so much more physically strong, but also it will return you to a place of emotional, mental and psychological balance. If someone was to walk up and trying to shove you right now, it would be very difficult because you would be strong like bull. You'd be really, really stable and really, really centred. But you'd also be feeling this emotionally as well. It should make a big difference to how strong you feel on the inside. So once you've done that, you're in that really nice strong place, we then move on to step 2, and this is where you bring in the use of the imagination. So you don't want to just abandon the hara technique, you still want to stand in that centred place where you feel physically and emotionally strong, and you then want to add in the layer of the imagination. So in order to do this, I've got these questions here that can help you engage your imagination and steer it in a particular direction. So you want to have a think, when are you most connected with experience? So you're looking for times when you're in flow, when you're just connected with the moments. For me, it's things like playing golf, or if I'm dancing, or if I'm walking in nature. It just seems to just make me feel so much more grounded, so much more connected with life in general. And I love this one here. When are you just being you, unapologetic? I think we all have experiences like this where we slip into a moment in time where we just suddenly become ourselves. You know, all of the layers of neuroses and the doubts and the worries just disappear. Maybe you're having a glass of wine, or you're just enjoying a moment with friends, but all of a sudden in that moment you just find yourself being connected with you as a person. So those are the times that you want to cast back to. Just allow those questions to steer your imagination and see what comes up. And simply just explore them. Just step into them in your imagination. So you're standing there in that really physically strong place. You're connected with your centre of gravity, your hara. You're feeling physically strong, but it's also making a difference to you emotionally. You then want to just consider, when am I most connected with experience? When am I just being me unapologetically? Allow yourself to step into whatever comes to mind from those questions. And you want to spend some time again with this, spend a few moments in this place, and you will be feeling really quite connected and strong, centred and grounded if you really do focus your attention on this for a portion of time. And then once you've spent some time exploring that, you then want to move on to the third step, and that is where you project. So this is where you take those feelings of inner strength and stability and deep connection that you're experiencing right now, and then you imagine what it would be like if you were to have these at some point in the future. Anytime we imagine having something in the future in our mind's eye, we create a neural pathway inside our minds. And the more that we imagine it, the stronger that pathway becomes. It's kind of like if you were to go for a walk in a forest. If you were to walk down a route that no one had ever walked on before, it wouldn't look like a path the first time you walked down it. But then if more and more people walked down that path over time, or down that route, it would eventually start to groove in, and it would start to carve itself into a proper path. That's kind of the same way it works with our neural pathways. The more that we imagine something, the more we create that path, and then eventually it becomes a viable option for us on a day-to-day basis. So the way to project like this is, again, you want to use questions. So one of the questions I often ask myself, and I'm in this really nice, strong, stable, grounded centred place, is what if you were to spend the rest of the day from this place? Or if you're doing this in the evening, you can imagine, okay, so what if I was to wake up tomorrow morning in this place of feeling really strong, stable, centered and grounded. And you just want to explore that question. Allow it to stimulate your imagination, allow it to steer it in a particular direction. What would you see? What would you hear? How would it feel if you were to spend an entire day from this place of being so centered, so grounded, so strong and stable? And that's really the technique. And the key thing, it's very, very simple, but the key thing is to really, really focus your attention on this. Become immersed in the process as much as you possibly can. The more intense and the more dramatic you can make it inside your mind in terms of your feelings, then the bigger result you're going to get from this process. So that is the technique on how to deliberately influence your emotions. And in particular, we've been focusing on how to create that feeling of inner strength, stability, and being really solid, centered, and grounded. And this can be wonderful because anytime we're knocked off balance, we do feel fragile. We do lose our center. So this can be a really wonderful mental place just to return to whenever we are struggling, whenever we find ourselves getting knocked off kilter. So hopefully you enjoyed this lesson. Once again, this is part of a larger free video course on YouTube on how to manage your emotions using NLP. If you want to keep up to date with this entire course as the videos get released, then subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell, and the videos will pop up on your feed as they get released. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Let me know how you got on with this technique. Give it a go. It can make such a real profound difference. So have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you later on.